Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Brandon Shank, and welcome to the Brandon Shank Podcast.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Brandon Shank Podcast. Great to have you with us. As always, we got Corey here, and we're excited about all the things, man. All the things that we want to talk about today.
Just
things. Load it up.
All the things. Sorry.
About a 3-hour podcast.
I don't even know what that's from, but there's been tons of time where my family or my wife says that, and my brain does that every time. All the things. I don't know where it's from. It's from somewhere. Huh? If someone knows, please let me know, because I have no clue.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with that. Listen, I don't know why, but I can't get off my mind the WNBA.
Okay.
And it's not just Caitlin Clark. It's Angel Reese. It's this rivalry that 5 years ago, if you would have told me that WNBA games are drawing celebrities intense, just what it is, I never would have believed you. I never would have believed you.
Didn't?
Because the WNBA for years only survived because of the NBA. The NBA financially provided for it. WNBA was in the red. But, I don't know. I love more opportunities for great sports. And for me, I'll be the first to confess. Listen, the Olympics are coming. I've said this before on the podcast, and I'm going to say it again. I will indict myself on this statement. I love women's soccer more than men's soccer. That is that in tennis. Now, don't get me wrong. Roger Federer, greatest tennis player, in my opinion, to ever live. Roger Federer, when Rafa Nadal played, they were, grudge matches. I loved watching them. But Serena Williams, Venus Williams.
Oh, yeah.
I just love watching these sisters play. These two sisters that came in, bound by blood. Just what they did to the game is incredible.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so that, and I don't watch a ton of NBA. I watch some of the playoffs. If the Lakers are in it, I watch it. But I'm at the place where I love women's soccer. And it's because of the whole Mia Hamm, Brandi Chastain, that whole era we grew up in where they won, the World Cup. You fell in love with them, and then you find out Nomar Garciaparra is marrying Mia Hamm, and, it was an easy marriage for all of us to love. But, yeah, men's soccer, not that I hate it. It's just, for me, women's soccer has always been the sport. If I had to soccer and tennis are the two sports where if I had to pick, hands down, I'd rather watch women play because I just felt like I loved it. But the WNBA, these games are starting to get to the point where I might end up watching more WNBA than NBA.
Hey.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I think NBA, they're just so good. These guys roll up to the half court and just shoot and it goes in. If you watch NBA players, they're almost too good.
Yeah.
They're almost too good. And it's amazing how I am amazed every time I watch an NBA game at how great these guys can shoot. It's almost, they're too good. They're not fun to watch. I want to see somebody miss.
Yeah.
They're scoring 198 points a game. It's come on, man.
It is pretty crazy.
I couldn't, if you gave me a basketball and started a timer and I had to shoot nonstop for 4 quarters, I could not score as many points as they score in a game.
Right.
You could put me under the basket to do layups, and I don't think I could make 70 layups in 4 quarters.
Yeah, I agree with that.
That's tough to do. I'm going to have to hit a 3 at some point to start pushing up that score.
Yeah. I'd just get too tired. I'm
just saying, it's amazing when you think about what these NBA players can do.
Yeah.
So I know we're out of season with the NBA. I know WNBA is in season. But it's unbelievable to me.
Yeah.
So every time I watch it, I tell my wife, I'm like, do you know how hard it is to shoot a ball that far consistently? Steph Curry, when he shoots, he does warm-up shots. Dude, my shoulders and arms would be killing me.
Well, when you really think, what is the distance if the ball, if you swish on each side of the ball? You're talking, it's not a ton.
Inches.
It's got to be 3 inches on
Precision.
each side, something like that.
Yeah.
The sheer thought of that is insane. I take it a step further though. I can't remember the name of it. You probably learned about it in school, stuff like that. The game, basically basketball that the Mayans used to play, where they hit it with their hips and have it go through that little tiny. You never heard about that? I gotta find it up. I gotta search it because I gotta remember the name of this.
They played basketball with their hips.
Yeah.
Shakira says your hips don't lie, so maybe she's onto something.
What was the name of the game? Pitz. The ancient Maya ball game called Pitz was part of the Mayan Maya political, religious, and social life. Played with a rubber ball ranging in size from that as a softball to a soccer ball. Players would attempt to bounce the ball without using their hands through stone hoops attached to the sides of the ball court. But I remember reading like they would use their hips to like. It's crazy. Anyway, you should look it up. Interesting. That's an extra fun fact you get.
Yeah, it sounds extra fun. Well, let me. Last week I had the opportunity to go to DC. It was kind of a last minute trip. One of my buddies hit me up. It's like, hey man, you come up here. We're doing the church planting, CMN Church Multiplication Network. We're doing church planting. So we got to be a part of launching 21 new churches. So we got to train these church planters. Pretty exciting time.
Yeah. But
something that they do at the end of this, every time I go, is one of the most powerful moments. Is they do this message about like God's placing His mantle on you. You're gonna go plant in your city. Like there's families in your city, and they'll start naming the cities of like where the marriages need saved. There's kids that need to find Jesus. And it just go through all the things. And as a pastor, it just kind of takes you back to why you do it.
Yeah.
So the reason I love going to these events, I have so many notes I haven't even shared with our staff, but it's like it reminds you like we're 10 years old in September.
Woo!
Yeah. I mean, it's a huge feat, and I didn't even think about it. I mean, a couple months ago, I was speaking at my buddy's church for a staff chapel, and they said, yeah, this is Brandon. He's planted palms 10 years ago. And I'm like, wow. I'm like not the new kid on the block. I'm the old guy,
Yeah.
But every time I go back to these things, it reminds me of why you do it, because he was like, these guys are getting ready to go do what we did. And I remember that fire of this, in Palm Beach, there are families who need Jesus. In Palm Beach, there are marriages falling apart. In Jacksonville right now, I don't know why I picked Florida. We're just picking on Florida. In Jacksonville right now, there are children that need to find Jesus because, and it's just this picture of like right now there's people that are hopeless sitting in their homes that are going to find this church through the internet or a flyer. And it just takes you back to like why you do it. And sometimes I think doing something for a long period of time, you start to forget why you did it. You start to forget like what stirred me in the beginning to do this, because you become so industrial, so corporate. So, and I don't mean that in a way of like the people don't matter. I say it in a way of when you go through 10 years of anything, you have to remember why you started it or you won't finish. Like you have to remember what started me to do this in the first place.
Yeah, it's good.
But coming back from that, I was just so invigorated. I was so encouraged. And I got home Thursday night, was here Friday for baseball practice. Saturday, I drove to Richmond to coach a tournament. Saturday night, I drove to D.C. to preach at a church. Sunday afternoon, I drove back to that tournament in Richmond to win it. Represent, boys. And then, Monday came. And thank God it was raining a little bit here because I didn't have to mow.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Shoot.
I was like, man, I'm not mowing.
Downpour.
Yeah, and it was a good excuse to just sit around on Monday. Rylan had an all-star game Monday night, so that was cool.
Yeah.
But I say that because I think for a lot of us, I mean, in ministry, you just forget the why. And you're saying, well, we got to go after the one person. No, I'm not talking about you don't love people. I think it's just so easy. Once you build something, you're no longer thinking about how to build it. You're thinking about how to grow it.
Yeah.
And when you're thinking about how to build something, your focus is on getting people and helping them and growing them and nurturing. When you're thinking about how to grow something, it becomes a lot more about different pieces of whatever it is you're trying to grow. It's a very different structure. It's a very different approach. Yeah. It's not a bad thing. It's just a thing, right? We agree with that.
Yep.
And so I just think it's one of those things for all the people out there to be like, listen, I think for a lot of us, the reason we get hopeless is because we forget. I know in church the famous saying is we forget the why. I don't agree with that. I don't think we forget the why. I think that one of the reasons we get that place is because we become disconnected from the passion that we have. Casey always tells me, she's like, people like your passion when you're encouraging them. They don't like your passion when you're disciplining it. Like they like the encouragement, they don't like the discipline. And she's like, you do the same thing with our boys. But I feel like God, it's the same way with him. It's like, I love God and I love what he does. I love the way he works. But we got to love God with the same passion of knowing that he's going to do something great in our life as whenever, you're 10 years into something, you're like, man, it just feels kind of like we're stuck in concrete, even though the church is growing, or even though your business is growing, or even though your family is growing. It's so easy to become disconnected from a passion of something you've done for a long time. You see guys that run these big companies and they can be millionaires, like, I just don't love it anymore. Well, why? Like, you got disconnected from something somewhere.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Or, I immediately think of when you say, because I agree with you. I don't think, especially in ministry, we don't forget the why. I mean, honestly, let's be honest. It's really easy to remember the why. It's like, well, yeah, it's the Great Commission. Like we all know the why. I think we just overcomplicate it too often. Like we get too far down in the weeds of it sometimes, and I think that's where things get messy and we lose vision. We get burdened down with things that sometimes we have to. I don't know. At least that's how I feel about it. Is we get caught up in the busyness, and yeah, we lose sight of the simplicity of the why. Like we overcomplicate it, I think. Or from times it's just because our whims, we go this way, that way, whatever. But I always kind of recenter myself of just like, yeah, the why can be difficult. I'm not saying that, but, and Jesus doesn't make light of that either. He doesn't say that we've got an easy mission. That's for sure. But it's just, sometimes I just think we overcomplicate it sometimes.
Well, and let me give everybody some perspective. So, because I do think we overcomplicate it. Well, the reason we overcomplicate it is because we just get disconnected. Things make us think that there's something else. There's another reason, right?
Yeah.
Like I was reading Ecclesiastes today, and it's like there are so many people that do great things, and then God hands it to people that are gracious, that are righteous. It's like He's gonna give it to people He trusts, right?
Yeah.
And I think for me, so a couple of months ago, I was going through some things, and not anything that was from me, things that were from honestly just pains and hurts and normal stuff. And what God spoke to me was, I'm not growing you for success. I'm growing you for scrutiny.
Yeah.
So the picture God gave me was, I'm not growing you so that you know how to be successful. I'm growing you so that you know how to take on the scrutiny. I'm growing that thing in your heart, that thing that covers that part that, I don't want to say callous, because that term kind of makes us feel like it doesn't matter.
Sure.
But what God was saying to me is, Brandon, the things I'm growing in you have nothing to do with you being able to handle success. He's like, you can handle success. You can handle any of those things. What you're struggling to handle is scrutiny.
Yeah.
And, there's a book by Dr. Sam Chan called Leadership Pain, and it talks about you can lead to the level of which you're able to withstand the pain.
Yeah. And
I have seen that. And I know Casey has seen that, and that's why I love my wife so much, because there's things that will really affect me that don't affect her, and vice versa. My wife internalizes things a lot more than I do. Like I can go through something, have a really hard day or two, and then move on. My wife will have a hard day or two, and then like on a week later have like a really hard day.
Yeah.
Because it's different how she processes it. But she's strength for me in so many times that I can't be strong, and vice versa. But I say that because I think a lot of us think that God's galvanizing our life so that we're ready for the bigger things and we can lead more people and have more money and do more things. And it's like, no, he's not as worried about that as you are. He's more worried about you. And God's actually growing us, and He's doing things in us so that we can actually withstand the scrutiny.
Yeah.
If you're going to be used on a platform like that. And I know even this week, man, I've had a boo bird after me for months, 9 months. I've had people just destroy me online. And it has nothing to do with it. And I can tell you with full conviction that none of it's true.
Yeah.
None of it. But it's people that take out their hurt on a person that's connected to things that have hurt them. Mm-hmm. Whether it's the church or abandonment or, and it's just, it baffles me.
Well, the thing is too, I have to imagine that, well, I know a lot of it because we've talked, but so much of it is A, behind your back, or B, keyboard warriors.
Oh, they're keyboard warriors for sure. I have yet to have a person reveal themselves.
Exactly.
Yet to have it.
Yeah.
And so it's one of those things that for me, it shows me like, yeah, this is a person with pain. They're just trying to create trouble for you, dude. They're just trying to create trouble in your life. And all it does is it hurts in the moment and helps in the future.
Yeah.
Because it just makes me stronger. And I'm in a place where I think for a lot of us, we're trying to grow to a place so that God can do great things, but really it's not as much for God to do great things, it is for us to be able to withstand the pain. I had a leader ask me that yesterday. He said, hey, how do you deal with the pain? And they weren't referring to anything that was going on in my life. They didn't even know what was going on in my life. They were referring to what was going on in their life. And they asked me, they said, how do you deal with just the pain and dealing with the turmoil? And their exact statement to me was, I know that my pain isn't the same as yours. It's a lot smaller. And I said, well, hold up. I said, let me tell you, it's not smaller because to you it's big.
Yes.
And I said, so regardless of who it is, I said, you could have a pain from a distance that's worldwide, but not that big, but a pain right next to you that's huge. So, it could be somebody online trashing you, whatever it may be. But I told him, I said, no, it's not that the pain is not different. It's just that as you grow through your ability to handle the pain, it doesn't hurt any different. It just takes a lot more to hurt the same.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Absolutely, yeah.
And so you understand why people who have influence are really protected. They don't let a lot of people in their circles. They're not really that open with a lot of people because they know that they just got to protect themselves.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so there is a piece of that is something that I think for all of us to be aware of, but I also think it's something that, for those of you listening, I think a lot of you're growing in your businesses, you're growing in your life, or you're ready to push to the next place, but a lot of us are stuck. I heard it said once that people that are addicted to drugs or have an addiction, that when you start an addiction, you stop maturing at that age of which you started the addiction. Yeah. So a lot of addicts, they act like they're in middle or high school because they started their drugs in middle or high school. This is a fact. And so because they started the drugs in middle or high school, they stop maturing at that point. So you wonder, well, what's wrong with this? There's nothing wrong with them. It's that they stop maturing at that age because that's whenever their trauma started.
Yeah.
Or trauma. If you have a trauma, if you have a PTSD or whatever it could be, you stop maturing at that point because your body goes into self-protection.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The help mode.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Because there's so much inside of you that you have to get figured out. And yeah, dude, it's such a mental thing for sure. And I think this is full circle to this entire conversation is it's not that you need disciplines, you need someone to push you, you need people in your life that'll push you. Like you said with Casey, you need people that'll see things from a different perspective than you see them and help you see them. And I think we have to be willing and open to those things. But yeah, like mental traumas will just stop you in your tracks until you break through them. And that requires a lot of hard work and a lot of self-reflection and just a lot of things that I think, again, the busyness of life, whatever, we convolute things, we make things so much more complicated sometimes than they need to. I'm not saying that means that these things are easy. They're hard, but we complicate them. Literally, I think about when I was going through my counseling and stuff, when you have a counselor that's working with you and they hand you an emotions wheel that looks like something a third grader would do. This doesn't work. And then you're like, holy cow, this works. When you start looking at that thing.
Explain the emotions wheel.
Well, so basically, for my pathway, you have outward emotions, but they're tied to inward feelings. And so sometimes when you're angry, it doesn't always mean that what you're experiencing deep within that root is anger. So I had a lot of anger and a lot of emotions when it came to those kind of things, but it was housed in hurt. And so once I looked at this emotions wheel and as I was experiencing these feelings and I would actually look at these feelings and I'd actually stop and think about, well, where are they coming from? What places are they coming from? What memories are popping up? I'm not just angry, I'm hurt. And as soon as I realize that it's housed in an inner core of hurt, I was able to address those things more specifically rather than just saying like, yo, you need anger management. No, I needed to deal with the hurt that was deeper. It was a much deeper layer. And so little things like that. I mean, even to journaling and stuff like that. Like writing about my feelings is going to make me feel better. And then you put it to practice, you put it to work, and it actually does. It helps you process. And so again, I think we have preconceptions on these tools and stuff that like, oh, that's so trivial. And put in the work. I'm telling you, like it does. And don't minimize those things.
Yeah. And I'll even say this, like, so as we're sitting here talking, I'm getting texts of people, screenshots of people bashing me online.
This isn't a live show. This
is not live. This is first thing in the morning, right?
Sorry,
it's like, this is the thing. I
but
respect the people who do that because they love me.
Yeah, sure.
And there are people that are far and wide around my life and around the church and around baseball. And I love people because they love me and they love my family. But my point to what you're saying is, yeah, there's days if I had that wheel, I would rip it in half before I would look at it because I'm just like so. But it's to the point where when it first happened, I remember to give you context. Because I think you're right. I've thought about you before. You said, for years you had trouble sleeping, but now you journal and you'll get up in the night. And once you journal, you can go to sleep and it just settles your mind.
Sure. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Which you're just alluding to.
Yep.
For me, when things first started happening, God said, hey, you got to be able to handle the scrutiny. Well, the reality is the scrutiny that came, I wasn't prepared for how personal it got.
Yeah.
You know? You could say the grass is green. And they would interpret it as he says the grass is green because, he smokes green weed. And you're like, what? And they're like, well, it's true. And then all of a sudden, you're like, he smokes green weed? Like, it's just, that's how ridiculous it is, right?
Yeah.
But my point is, what I've learned is that God's like, Brandon, I will let you lead at the place of which you're able to handle the scrutiny.
Yeah.
Because I believe in you. And I know that you have the ability and the gift of wisdom and a gift of knowledge and the ability to take people closer to me. But God will not do it at my expense.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about him. And that's what I think people need to hear.
Yeah.
Is that I think for all of us, if we're being honest, everybody would love to have more than enough money. Everybody would love to have more than enough influence. And everybody would like to be left alone. They don't want to be talked to. That's not reality.
Yeah.
If you want more than enough money and more than enough influence, then you're going to be needed and wanted. If you have a lot, people will come to you who want a lot.
Yeah.
Can we just say that?
Sure.
If you're a pastor, people will target you that are hurt by pastors or churches.
Yeah.
And I think church hurt's an interesting word because it's the only place that takes credit for their people. Are you ever Walmart hurt?
Well, I mean, maybe.
But you go back. Look on TikTok. There's a ton of y'all taking videos of people in Walmart, and it's one of your favorite spots. But church hurt. Oh, those people at church, like they hurt me, man. Listen, You go to Walmart, you go to Target, you go to church. You don't go to church because, I'm church hurt. No, like what happens is people everywhere can cause pain.
Yeah.
We choose where not to go because we don't want to go, but we blame the pain for it. But yet we go to places that we want to go to even if it causes pain. That bar you've been sitting at that causes you pain and that is reason your family ain't with you anymore because of the alcohol, you can't blame the bar or the bartender.
Yeah.
You can't blame the waitress you had the affair with. Like you were there. You see what I'm saying?
Sure, yeah.
And so I think that's what happens in life. And I think for all of you leading out there, all of you that are carrying people with you somewhere, you got to realize that the leadership pain that you have endured is strengthening you to carry more. It's not something that once I'm through this, I'll be galvanized and there'll be a resolve. You will absolutely have a growth. But in leadership, you will have pain forever.
Sandlot.
Forever. And what happens is you learn to live with the Achilles heel instead of trying to fix it all the time.
Yeah.
Because this is what happens with let's talk about an Achilles. When you pop an Achilles, it's like 6 months rehab unless you're Aaron Rodgers and you do the woo-saw doctor. Right?
Yeah.
You can't force it. There is just a timeline that you can't force with an Achilles injury.
Yeah.
What happens with us is we force it and then we pop another one. And then we pop another one and wonder why we're always hurting is because you're trying to heal instead of learning how to live with something that's been surgically repaired. Because as a leader, there will be pains. You can forget or forgive, but there is nowhere where you are not Jesus. You will not forget. Yeah. And honestly, it's not good to forget. It's good to remember. It's the difference between remembering and holding it against somebody. I can remember conversations you and I have had and said, man, well, Corey said that. I'm going to hold it against him. Yeah. And then we wouldn't have the relationship we have.
Sure. Yeah.
We wouldn't be able to build what God's calling us to build together. Yeah. We wouldn't be able to fulfill what God's got for our life. Correct?
Yeah. Yep.
I remember what was said. Does it hurt me? No. Why? We talked about it. What does it do? Honestly, I feel like it's made me better.
Yeah, for sure.
And I would hope.
Feel the same way.
Yeah.
Yep.
That iron has sharpened iron.
Yep.
I've had conversations with my wife that have done the same. I've had conversations with your wife with all of us in the room that have done the same.
Yep.
Why? Because we're friends. And as your friends, you help each other see what you can't see to grow.
Yeah.
And yeah, there are some leaders who won't let people around them or people that they are quote unquote employing have a say. And that's why organizations aren't healthy. Mm-hmm. Like there are certain people you're not going to be like, yeah, come into my inner circle and speak into my life.
Yeah.
But the reality is when you're intimately connected with people that you're growing and doing things with, like, you've got to be accountable to each other.
Yeah.
Because God gives you each other as a gift. But when you treat people like they're employees or as leaders, you treat people like they're working for you and not with you.
Yeah.
It starts a pyramid scheme. Yeah. And then you wonder why I'm just struggling, I'm unhealthy, because it's not what God's asked you to do.
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm saying? And I think leadership pain, listen to me, people, leadership pain, the pain at which you're able to lead will be what you're able to withstand. Some of you are great leaders, but you just got to push that pain lever up. And it doesn't mean I'm not miserable. I'm happier now than I've ever been because I can carry more with less pain.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Back in the day, the smallest thing would have thrown me for a loop. Mm-hmm. But that's because I had to be taught. I had to grow into that.
Yeah. Well, I think too, like just to add this in there, is that even that phrase "iron sharpens iron." Again, I think this is sometimes where we miss it a little bit within Christianity, or we look over a little too much. It's like that's a conflict process. Like that's a if you're gonna put, literally iron sharpening iron, there's gonna be sparks, there's gonna be grinding, there's gonna be there's going to be intense moments. Think about your marriages. Think about your close relationships. Think about your children. Whatever, you name it, there is conflict that leads to growth. And I think we just have to be really, really good at having good conflict. And I think that's something, I think
people think of conflict, they think of two things exploding when they hit each other.
Yeah.
But there's a difference between, like, conflict can end good and conflict can bring resolution, or conflict can bring war.
Yes.
And that's what people need to realize. Like, as a leader, your job is to bring resolution. When a leader steps in a room, the room should quiet. There should bring a peace with it.
Yeah.
It's just the reality of it. As a leader, you should bring peace. There should be a confidence that you're able to help bring peace to a situation, even if the result is not preferred.
Yeah.
You should bring peace to that. You know what I mean?
What's that saying? You're a thermostat, not a thermometer.
Yeah, as a leader, you don't always get to have a strong opinion. A lot of people will say, "Man, why don't you speak up for this?" Or "Why don't you go and go online? You just need to record a video and just like dispute everything, and just so people hear another voice." And I get that, but if it's not on the platforms in which those things are being said, what's the point? And second, I don't have time to defend myself. Like, if it's the people close to me or organizations that I'm with, they're like, "Hey, man, can you kind of explain this?" But my character should precede anything that's being said.
Yeah.
Anybody can clip a video and say something about you that's not true. Anybody can say that.
Yeah.
Anything out of context is evil.
Yeah.
Meaning, anything in your life that somebody decides to cut and paste can make you look like a dark person.
Yeah. Why don't I do it on a clip?
Yeah.
Just make you say whatever.
Please don't add to the fire. But my point is, you could go to any sermon clip we have, and you could put pieces of it together that don't go together.
Yeah.
Context gives you understanding, and people constantly argue against others without context.
Well, you don't have context unless you're talking to that person. And I'm sorry, being a keyboard warrior isn't talking to that person. That is, you have the internet between you, and you're lobbying your things just to get likes.
And let me say this
off of what you're saying.
85, 90% leaders today. Leaders, listen to me. 90% of the things that you will have trouble with whenever you get any type of influence, meaning I don't mean any type of influence if you're not getting this, you're not influential. I don't mean it like that. What I'm trying to say is, as your influence grows, 90% of the scrutiny you will receive will be from online.
Yeah.
And of that 90%, 70% of it will be anonymous.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and some of it will be very personal.
Yeah.
But what I'm trying to say is, you have got to figure out and ask the Lord for strength how to lead at a level of which you're not currently leading.
Yeah.
Because what I will say, even if you're not leading people, you're leading you. You're leading your families, right? You're leading your kids. You're leading your spouses. Like, you've got to be. And in my home, I used to come home and I really was more of a temperature than a thermostat, because my wife is where I would just come home and dump all my emotions and my feelings and my frustrations. And what the Lord showed me was that, my wife is my safe place. When I see her, things are just at peace. They are, because I know she's in my corner. I know that she knows my heart. It's just nice to be around somebody who no matter what, even if you're wrong, they'll call you out, but they'll never, ever assume that.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? It's your spouse.
Yeah.
But she's not a pushover like Casey will tell me. But the thing I love about it is that over time, I realized I don't need to go home and unleash it to her.
Mm-hmm.
I can give it to God and be that thermostat at home where I can provide that peace. And that, it's not like, well, you can't be real anywhere. And I'm real everywhere. Yeah. It's just I let God deal with those things. I talk to my wife about frustrations or this or that, but I realize I'm dumping it all on her, and then she's overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And where's she going to take it? Well, if I take it to God, what I dump is different than what I dump if I don't take it to God.
Yeah.
And so I think for all of us, because I've thought for the last 10 years leading this church and other things, and now I'm starting other organizations, like, what does this look like?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And I think,
So
I think there's so many things too within the psychology world that sometimes as a Christian, we're like, well, it's prayer and it's this and it's that and it's just faith and it's just believing. What I've learned within the psychology world, especially I went to a Christian psychologist, but you realize that, I mean, this is what God is saying when he says renew your mind. Like, we are physical creatures too, and there are so many things that when I journal, when I pray, whatever, like it looks a lot like, say, meditating on God's word. It looks a lot like having a conversation with God, praying. It looks a lot like all of these things that we think, well, that's just like what the world says in science. Like, well, we're physical creatures, and God created all of those things, and so that's why I'm saying I'm kind of like imploring you to be like, I think you and I know this when you say like, man, we got to be people that just pray more. At its simplistic thing, stop overcomplicating it. Talk to God. Get your emotions out. Like literally, don't just be like, oh, I got to say this prayer with the right words and I got to close it in a certain way. No, just talk. Write it down. Like whatever you have to do that gets it out of your system, that is you basically surrendering those things to God, and don't overcomplicate it. Like stop making it some process or some system that it has to look a certain way, or it has to be, well, this time in the morning and this time, like just talk, talk to them.
Yeah, absolutely. So I hope people, as you're listening to this, you realize that one of the things that scrutiny in your life as a leader does is it makes you feel isolated. It makes you feel like there's nobody else understands it. Everybody's against me. The reality is, in leadership, there's two things. I tell our church planners this all the time. I say, listen, you're never going to lack vision as a church planner, but you will lack discipline. Like you're not going to lack vision. You're going to have vision. You're going to want to build, campuses. You're going to do so many amazing things, but you will lack the discipline to get up and want to do it. You're going to lack the discipline to go to work every day and work hard after 5 years. Like it's great, but when the 3-year plan is not happening and you're on phase 1 of the 3-year plan, and then 5 years in, you're still trying to build the discipleship process that you thought was going to bring you all the leaders, and those leaders are going to turn into great worldwide leaders, you're going to realize it's not the way that it works.
Yeah.
And so for a lot of you, you're not going to lack vision in your businesses. You're not going to lack vision in the things you're doing. You're going to lack discipline. You're going to lack the discipline that when you have a hard day, I think it's great. Eat a bowl of ice cream at night. I don't care what anybody says. Sometimes you got to feed that physical, man. And you know what? If you want to throw down some French fries and a burger because you've had a hard day, that's fine. Just don't have a hard day every day. Enjoy your meals, man.
Yeah.
But discipline is saying there are consistencies in my life. That's what discipline is saying, that I will not abandon when times get tough.
Yeah, it's good.
And those disciplines can look different. I think for so long we've made spiritual disciplines turn out to be working out and eating good. You see so many people working out with pictures of your shirt off. Listen, I get it, man, but ain't nobody trying to see that. Like, if you're a fitness guy, it's fine, but come on. I mean, we got so many people just, look at me working out.
Send it to your wife.
Beside my pool or in my gym, or that's great. But nobody trying to see that, man. Like, we're proud of you, but like, come on. Like, we ain't trying to see all that. And I was just right there. Somebody's scrutiny. I get that.
Hey, I can get AI to do that for you too.
No, so. Man, don't put. I'm good. No, I'm good. So yeah, I think there's just something. I think haters are going to hate in your life. I think for a lot of us as leaders, again, I want you to kind of push into this thing of you won't just be bigger, won't just be better. You don't have the physical ability to just outpunt every hater in your life. You have got to build a threshold of resistance that's going to go well beyond where you're currently sitting.
It's good.
What I think for a long time for me in my life, something I've struggled with is like, when's it going to be over? Like you feel like you can get to this place in life where things are just going to change and you're like, oh, thank God.
Yeah.
So when we moved into this building as a church, something the Lord spoke to me was, you'll never have to work like that again. And I was like, praise God. Now, for those of you who don't know, we have a church that was given to us in Oakland, Maryland a couple months ago, and it's a big church, holds 400 people, a basement that runs the whole length of the church. For those in Virginia Beach who don't know what a basement is, it's a building underneath of
Doesn't
the
get
ground.
wet.
It doesn't get wet.
Surprising.
Yeah. I love basements. We just don't happen to have any around here. I was actually one thing when we moved down here, I was like, man, no basements? Come on.
I know.
But anyway, so we built that out, and that launched in March. And then we got this building, and we built it out with our bare hands, with our people and our church, the Bryans who own landscaping companies and the Adams who own contracting companies and my father-in-law, Vernon, like so many people that came and gave their time, like the Jimmies who are military that had days off that came and worked, Dakotas, like just so many people who came in, and we put our hands on this thing. And I will tell you, this was a monster. It was a lot of building, but we did it. And if you come here, you're like, wow, this place looks amazing. Oh, it does look amazing. But we put our hands on it. And I told our team, listen, in our life, we're not going to get to put our hands on the temple probably ever again, because the next building is going to be so big we won't be able to touch it. Like bigger, right?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
But this one we were able to. And so I said, enjoy it.
Yeah.
And I feel like we did. I feel like it was definitely felt 10 times longer as the one we built the last time a couple years ago when we built the other building.
Yeah.
It felt like this is daunting. Like it was just so big.
Yeah.
But it's done. And it's great, right?
Yeah. Oh, it's beautiful. Love it.
So all that to say, I don't remember where I was going with this.
I don't know either. We're along for the ride.
Okay, I remember now.
Okay.
Kind of.
Yeah.
No, my point was, I think that when we came into this building, God said, you're going to have to work. It's never going to be like that. And the picture that he gave me was like a farmer in a field with a shovel and a hoe just opening up the ground. And it was hot.
Yeah.
And you're out there with your overalls on and your straw hat, and you're just bleeding sweat, essentially. You're just dripping everywhere. And you're out there in the hot sun. That sun is at 12 o'clock, and it's just over you. And I felt like that's been the last 10 years of our church. I mean, we've been in and out of middle schools. We've been in and out of high schools. We've been in and out of buildings. In this building, we finally are here for at least 5 years, and who knows, maybe longer. Yeah. We've got buildings in different locations now. We want to launch different campuses. But the picture God gave me was, this is never going to be like this again. He's like, the labor will be hard, but it'll be different type of work. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the foundation after 10 years.
Yeah.
10 years.
Yeah.
Like it's going to be different. And I've always thought, and I had a pastor this week, Pastor Mark Batterson, New York Times bestselling author. We were at his church. Oh, yeah. And I say that because if you haven't read his books, The Circle Maker,
one of my favorite authors.
Snowy Day.
One of my favorite.
Yeah, he's great. And the story about him, it's interesting. Real quick, as a sidetrack, he was told, so he always talks about your right hand. Your right hand is good. If those of you who are right-handed, your right hand can do stuff. And he said, now hold up your left hand. He said, is it interesting to you that most of you can't even brush your teeth with your left hand? He said, he said, you think about how worthless our one hand really is compared to our other.
Yeah.
He said, it's valuable, but it's worthless. And he said, writing to him, he wrote a manuscript and they told him, just don't ever write. He said, it was a left-hand thing for me.
Wow.
He said, so he read 3,000 books before he wrote his first book. And he said writing was a left-handed thing for him, but he always dreamed of doing it. Or he actually said he didn't want to do it, but he felt God telling him to do it. So he said writing was actually a left-handed thing for me. And he said, and when I wrote In a Pit with a Lion on a Snowy Day, I'd already read 3,000 books before I wrote that book. And he said, and that book was the one that took off.
Yeah.
And he was talking about how there are things in our life that are left-handed things. That those are the things, he said, because God will use our what? Our weaknesses.
Yeah. Yep.
And he said, so the left-handed things in your life are the scary things that you don't even know how it's going to work. Those are the things that God's going to use for great. And he said, and when it turns great, like, oh, you can write this, that. And he realized, like, I'm not really that great at it, but God just is using it. And he is a great author. I mean, anybody who's ever read his books, like, he's amazing. Like you said, one of my favorite authors.
One quick shout out. If you want to just be amazed by Jesus, go read The Grave Robber by Mark Batterson. He systematically breaks down Jesus's miracles. I read that book, and you just stand in awe of who Jesus is and what he did. That's my shout out. The Grave Robber. Probably one of my favorite books of all time.
The Grave Robber.
Yep.
Mark Batterson. Yeah, so Mark Batterson, we're giving you shout outs here today, but yeah, I mean, he's a great guy, great pastor. We were in his office, pretty much all these church planners were all in his office. He was telling us stories about the Capital City turnaround that they have. It's like a city block in D.C. that they bought. And like in 1996, he marched around D.C., a 4.6-mile walk. And God said, I'll give you everywhere you set your foot. Inside that 4.6 miles of Ebenezer's Coffee House and now the Capital City turnaround. And his office is on the corner where he turned the corner. His office is on that corner. And he talks about everything in his office and how symbolic it is.
That's cool.
And they told me, his staff was like, dude, he's here all the time. They're like, he's in the office. He's here before we get here and leaves after we leave. Like, he loves his office, He's an office guy. But I say that because I think for all of us, you got to think like, I know God's like, it's going to be different from here on out. I think the things that scare me is he's going to use my left hand, like my weaknesses. And he's starting to do that in things that I'm leading, like the baseball world for me. Like I love coaching. But I never played baseball in college. I played football, and I played baseball through high school. And I did have some opportunities to play, but I didn't. So I don't have that level of coaching. I've never gotten coached at the college level. But I'm able to coach kids at a high level, and I've done research, I've studied, I've read stuff for years to get the knowledge, and I've talked to a ton of coaches, and I have relationships with a ton of coaches. And so I feel like I have strengthened my left hand to be able to do what I do, not having the background. And the world that he's opened up within baseball, especially at the beach and the Tidewater, has been immense, right?
Yeah.
Just the stuff that I'm able to be a part of. And I know God's given me influence in that. I mean, people have been like, this is your calling, this and that. And so even now, like stuff that's coming out this summer with some of the stuff I'm doing, some things that we're building that we'll let y'all know about here shortly. But
tease.
Yeah, but it is cool because I feel like it's something that God has used in my left hand. And so I think like when we moved in this building, he's like, hey, you're never going to work like that. It's not going to be like that type of work anymore.
Yeah.
It wasn't like exciting to me. It was scary. Because then I was like, well, that's what I know how to do.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't think it was God giving me a warning as much as it was an encouragement of like, you've grown to the place where you can take this level of pain.
Yeah.
And so now I'm going to elevate you. I don't like the word elevate. I don't like the word promotion. I don't like those types of things. So let me rephrase that.
Yeah.
Now, as you shift into this new season,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm 41 years old. I'll be teaching college classes this semester or this fall and late summer. I'm starting a new organization this summer that's going to have a lot to do with baseball. Pastoring this amazing church, which I can't wait to be even more involved in. And I say that because I've been out a lot with baseball. That I sense the change.
Yeah.
I sense the shift. And we talked about this yesterday.
Yep.
But I think for all you guys out there, listen to me. Like God is a God of order. And so many times we want to get to somewhere before we built something to get to somewhere. And then we think, well, we just want to get there. God, you don't want this for me. And he does. But God knows that if you can't take that level of scrutiny, he can't give you that level of success because it'll destroy you. Because he would rather he doesn't want you in this place where you're successful, all these things, brokenhearted because of the scrutiny all the time. He wants to galvanize us so that we're ready for that level. And so I think so many times we try to figure out, well, why hasn't God brought me here? Why hasn't he done this? It's never because you're not good enough. And it's never because, well, I'm just not there. Sometimes it's just not the right season. But a lot of times it's more of that grinding, that iron sharpening iron. It's those types of things in our life that, you know, and some of us, it's as simple as our families, they control us. I think the generation before us, we've said this before, they sacrificed ministry on the altar of family. Now they sacrificed family on the altar of ministry. Our generation sacrifices ministry on the altar of family.
Yeah.
And there's a way to do both well. Well, family's first. That's not scriptural.
Yeah.
That's not.
Yeah.
What scripture says is that a man should be able to lead his home.
Yeah.
There should be respect from his children to him, his wife. There should be a camaraderie, a love. That you got to have good character, not to avoid drunkenness, like all these things, right?
Yeah.
But it does never say that family is second to God.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we get it mixed up. Well, God will honor me because I'm putting my family first. That's not what Scripture's actually saying.
Yeah, what I hate about that, just to jump in and interject really quick, because I had to make this shift in my brain too. I hate the list. I hate the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 list when it comes to like, well, it's God and then it's my family and then it's rather, I like to think of it as God is at the center and all of these things essentially orbit around that. And so don't make it some list, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 list. Make it like, well, God is interjected into everything I do. And that if I'm listening to the Spirit, I'll find my balance. So it's like, I don't know. I had to stop thinking of terms as like, well, if I give to this and I give to this and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, put God in the center of it all. Let him organize it. Just try and be obedient to what he's speaking. And yeah, because like anything, your job, my job, ministry, like, sure, you can give and give and give and give a lot to that. But at the same time, it's just like, man, if God's not at the center of my marriage and my relationship with my kids, I am blinded to the fact that I'm not filling up their love tank or however you want to call it. Like, it's just like, yeah, I have to be present for all these things. Put God at the center. Don't make it a list.
Yeah, we get it lopsided, man. You don't have to. Yeah, that's the best way you could say it.
Yeah.
There's no list.
Exactly. Get rid of the list.
If God is in the center, everything else will get formed in the right way.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And so yeah, I think it's That's important. So I think today, one of the big takeaways I want everybody to hear when they hear me is your goal should not be to grow your leadership pain threshold so that you can lead more. Your goal should be to love people unconditionally and be faithful and let God be faithful to the process and honor him in it.
That's good.
Whatever process you're in, just be okay with it.
Yeah.
Like, why do we have to have a name on everything? Why do we have to figure it out? Like, people ask me all the time, they always say, man, you're so busy. I appreciate your time. It's like, people view you differently than you view yourself.
Yeah.
Am I busy? Yeah. Is things crazy? Yeah. I mean, I'm leading multiple things. Sure. I've got a lot of people I'm connected to. I love people. I love the 35, 40-minute drive I have from my house to this church every day because it gives me time to talk. I'm on the phone nonstop all day, every day. Yeah. I literally probably on the phone 3-4 hours a day, I feel like, with my drives. Yeah. Like, I drove to D.C. last Tuesday, and I was on the phone with people for 4 hours straight.
Yeah.
And so then I came back Thursday night, and it was late. I was on the phone with people probably 2.5 out of those 4 hours.
Yeah.
Because I love people, and I have a lot of people that I'm connected to, and I love talking to people. And then there's things you have to get taken care of, but I enjoy being around people. Mm-hmm. And so I think for us to stop putting so much pressure on ourselves. Leader, if you're trying to put pressure on yourself to be able to hold more so you can do more, you're not getting there. It's not the right way to do it. It's not going to work. It's not the way it works. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
It's just not the way that it works. So I hope this is an encouragement to everybody, and I hope they see that it's bigger than that. So do you have I know you were doing some research earlier before we started, and I know you got to have, I feel like there's something up your sleeve today that you want to share with us that is completely different than what we're talking about.
Oh, yeah. Like a little fun fact.
I feel like there's something, I just feel like there's something coming at us.
I came across a trend, and for the sake
Hold on, people. Here we go.
For the sake of this being a family-friendly podcast, I'm not going to say the name of the trend because that would be inappropriate. But I've had this since reading about it. I've had this battle in my mind of like, would I be able to accomplish this trend? I think I would, just out of sheer determination.
Let's hear it.
I would enjoy it. So the new trend right now going on social media is all the people that take plane flights. I can't say the name. I can't say the name of what this challenge is. But essentially, you sit there and you don't inject any media. You don't get on your phone. The only thing you're allowed to do is watch the little map of the plane going and so it's now a new challenge where it's just like people are like 15-hour flight just made like nothing, no music, no reading. You sit there and you just watch the screen of the little plane.
Why would you do that?
That's what I'm saying. I'm sitting there like, why are we doing this stuff to ourselves? We have all this beautiful technology and things that we could do, but it's this new big trend that's happening.
No, forget that trend.
So,
I'm watching movies.
My question was,
watching movies and eating snackies.
Would you accept the challenge, or
no way.
You just be like, nah, it's stupid?
If it was a flight to DC, I would.
Yeah. See, I think
32 minutes.
I think it's one of those challenges that I'm like, what are you proving? I don't know. So it feels kind of dumb to me. And then it got me thinking about dumb internet challenges. And
well, before you go there, let me answer your question.
Okay.
I am 100% not the guy to go with trends. Anybody that knows me knows I am the opposite of trends. Now, I'm not the guy who dresses opposite of trends so that people know that I'm not trendy. I'm not. Do I?
Really? No. I'm not saying you. I had a really.
I'm about to say this.
Sorry.
Y'all might have to cut the cameras off.
I'm just trying to interject points where they're. You probably know this too. Growing up in the church, I was on, and shout out to Missy, my old worship leader. Sorry that I always did this, but I was part of that church in the worship team where it was like, hey, this Sunday we're all wearing beige. And
oh, jeez.
I'm not joking you. I intentionally, being like an artist too, you always know the complementary color, the opposite color. I would intentionally wear the opposite color of everyone else because it's like, I'm not doing this. I'm not following your weird trend. No. Still to this day, I have that in my brain. I'm just like, I hope someone doesn't be like, oh, there's a dress code and we're all going to wear the same color at church. I'm like, I'm not doing it. I'm
Heck
doing
to the no. Well, listen,
so I'm thankful that you don't.
Yeah, no, I don't, and I don't intentionally not follow trends just because if I like something, I'm like, I like something. I don't care if everybody else likes it or not. That's kind of my approach.
I'm a rule breaker. I do it because I want to be. I want to have conflict.
Yeah, I mean, all trends is following what everybody else is doing. That's what it means, right? So, like, that's in style. What does that mean?
Yeah.
Everybody else is wearing it.
Sure. Yeah.
I want to be in style. So you say, well, you're out of style. That's basically saying you're not wearing what everybody else is wearing. Okay? Thank you for the compliment.
I haven't changed my style since high school.
Yeah. It's like, well, thank you for the compliment. Yeah. My point, though, is when you see somebody looks like, you're like, man, they just look like they know who they are. There's never a style. You're like, yeah, they might be stylish. They might not be. They just look like they know who they are. I think that's the greatest compliment, right?
Yeah.
You're just you.
Yeah.
So I think you are the best version of you. But I will say, to what you're saying with the trend, yeah, I would have no desire. One, because, like I said, I'm a movie and snacky snack kind of guy. So I'm going to kick back and enjoy my ride.
Right.
Like, I ain't worried about all that. I don't
Exactly.
care about not, like, if there is a screen, your boy is watching something. Unless it's like a short flight, I just listen to my music, call it a day.
So it reminded me of all these crazy challenges that we've had through the years. And so I just wanted to go, a trip down memory lane.
I like
see
memory
if
lane.
You remember any of these challenges. Okay. Of course, I feel like the creme de la creme of dumb internet social media challenges, and we actually talked about it last week on the podcast, or at least I made a comment about it, the Tide Pod Challenge. Why was this...
I don't remember.
Listen, I can't say that. I will say this, though. You ever looked at a Tide Pod?
Yeah.
They do look like candy. They do look like
what
candy.
What did people do with them?
They were eating them.
What?
Yeah, so the Tide Pods Challenge, it was a real thing where YouTubers, whatever, social media, the people would actually eat laundry detergent.
We're getting dumber
pods
as humanity.
And
is that possible? We are just going backwards.
It's really not, obviously, not good for you. Don't eat laundry detergent. It's probably something that shouldn't need to be said, but people do this.
Unbelievable.
I think second to that.
So did people eat it fully?
Yeah, they eat the Tide.
Why?
They eat the whole Tide Pod.
Did it kill anybody?
This is what I'm saying. I got to keep you relevant, Brandon. Because
no, it ain't relevant.
I don't know about a lot.
I feel like my intelligence has digressed in the last 7 minutes.
It will continue to, because the next one I feel like I have on my list is the Blackout Challenge. And so this is where you would literally choke yourself.
It's a great idea.
To the point.
What a great idea.
Of blacking out. I feel like these people are going to end up on the Darwin Awards. Have you ever heard of the Darwin Awards?
No.
It's every year. I mean, it's really sad. It really is. But people that have they've died in the dumbest ways possible.
Oh, that's.
Yeah, sorry. I just took it to.
And so people are dead to get awards.
Yeah, exactly. Wow. Again, at this point, I'm going to go to planking. Did you ever plank?
No.
You know what that is?
I know what planking is. I've done it to work out. But I've never planked over top of
what I loved is I looked up plank. I read this lady's comment, and she was like, because this was a thing back in 2011, and she's like, I went to Mount Kilimanjaro, and apparently the only picture now that I have of me on the top of Mount Kilimanjaro is me planking on top of Mount Kilimanjaro.
You go all that way, and you suffer through all of that to get to the top and plank. You almost don't want to tell your kids.
You summited, and the only picture you have is you planking on the top.
You almost don't even want to tell your kids you did it. You know what? Nah, I've never been there. What we should do as a family.
Oh, man. There's the cinnamon challenge.
Yeah, that was crazy, too.
Yeah, that was pretty crazy. Obviously, ice bucket challenge, which I didn't think was that, it was interesting. Have you heard of the Kylie Jenner lip challenge? This one's actually very comical. It's very funny. So apparently, people get lip injections, whatever, but you put a suction cup on your lips and you leave it, I don't know, you leave it there for a long time and people pull it off and their lips are so full of blood. They're huge. It's probably the most comical one.
What?
I don't know why people do this stuff to themselves.
How do people have this much time?
I don't know. Is there any that you can think of?
I think influencers in general are getting paid to sit around, destroy homes, burn Lamborghinis, trash grocery stores, buy businesses and tear them down, let people sleep overnight in them, buy boats and sink them. We're paying millions of dollars for entertainment of influencers, right?
Yeah.
It's just, what I was thinking about yesterday? What if, all right, because I went through a dead spot. I guess a tower went down around here, and I have I'm on Verizon. No, that's not a shameless plug. I'm not saying it's better. It's just what I have.
Yeah.
So a cell phone tower went down, and it said SOS on my phone.
Oh, yeah.
So I was like, I cannot get in touch with society right now for about 10 minutes until I drove out of the zone. Because yesterday somebody asked me, did anybody else's cell phone go down? Mine was down for hours. I was like, no, mine was only for 10 minutes. They're like, yeah, cell phone tower went down. So if somebody found a way to hack to shut down all communication from phones and internet, I was thinking, well, what would we do? There'd be no way to communicate.
Oh, yeah.
Internet, you can't email. You can't call. You can't text. I was like, the only thing I could think of would be to drive to the church as a gathering place. But I think people would eventually end up here.
That's a good point.
Don't you think so?
That's a good point.
So, hey, I'm putting that out there. If anything goes bad, guys, meet here. Meet here at the Boulevard. We got you.
Then here's a question for you. Zombie apocalypse.
Ain't happening.
Where are you going?
Next.
No, come on. Hypothetical. Where are you going?
Zombie apocalypse. I'm standing out on my homestead, dog. We're going to create a fort.
But you need to go somewhere to get supplies and stuff.
We're going to bury them in my yard.
What store are you going to get? I mean, come on, dude. You need stuff to survive the zombie apocalypse. Where are you going?
Harris Teeter.
Man,
gotta get food.
This is what I'm saying. Bring it full circle. I'm thinking you're going Walmart. I mean, where else are you going besides Walmart?
Walmart
to prepare for the zombie
Walmart
apocalypse.
still sell firearms?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
All right.
In certain states,
that's probably not a bad place to go. Then
probably still here.
Zombie apocalypse. You probably gonna need firearms.
Yeah, I mean, name a better place than Walmart.
My
is
house.
all I'm trying to say.
My house.
No, but like to get ready for the zombie apocalypse.
I mean, how you know I'm not ready? How you know we ain't got some underground bunkers, dog?
Yeah, because we have no basements in Virginia Beach.
I mean, you got some land, dog. I'm just saying.
You building a facility underneath?
You never know.
Do you know information we don't know?
You never know.
That's actually a conspiracy.
I'm not a prepper.
That's a conspiracy going around
I am
right
not.
now.
What, that I'm building
No,
something?
that all. Yeah. Well, I can start that one.
Yeah. I mean, believe me, it probably is.
No, all the elites in the world are buying up underground bunkers for some thing that we don't know is going to happen.
Bring it on.
Yeah.
Dude, this is where you got to know. I'm a child of God. He's got my back. If a zombie apocalypse is what takes me out of here, then your boy is going out.
Listen, my wife.
And I'm going out fist fighting.
My wife came up with a great point because I always thought that I would do well in the zombie apocalypse. And she flat out, because, these are things me and my wife talk about on a consistent basis. But she flat out looked at me, and I've never thought about this. She was like, Corey, without your contacts, you're like almost blind. And I was like, oh no. I was like, you better believe zombie apocalypse, the first place I'm hitting up is like America's Best or whatever. You know, I'm stocking up on contacts because you're right.
I can't see.
If my contacts go bad and my glasses break, I'm not gonna have a good zombie apocalypse experience.
Bro, you ever watch that show Last Man on Earth?
That it was like one season. They had one season,
like 3
right?
seasons, I think.
It's based. Oh no, the comedy. Yeah,
so
I have seen that.
It was just one of those things where like when you really think about it, and you're like, that's what it would be like if nobody was here. Like stuff's starting to get grown up. Like stuff only keeps for 3 years. It's canned. Like then you get to that place like, well, what do we do now?
Yeah.
Like you'd have to find a way. It's just really interesting. I'm like, man, you think that'd be so much fun? Like everybody's gone and you just get to run around the world like it's a giant Sims. But then you're like, well, I can't fly anywhere because I don't know how to fly a plane.
Yeah.
You're like, you're like, and food's gonna go bad, and you're like, slowly you realize this would be miserable.
After a certain point in time.
I mean, what would you do if you were the last man on Earth? Where's the first place you would go?
First place I would go, I'd already told you, I'm going to get contacts. That's where I have to. Like literally, I don't want to live the rest or glasses, whatever.
No, you're the last man on Earth. There's no apocalypse. You're just the last man on Earth.
Well, I would need contacts.
Okay.
I would.
So
like,
for
let's
me,
be honest. I mean, I guess if I'm the literally the last person on Earth, I could go to those whenever.
If I'm the last man on Earth, I'm going to every MLB stadium, every pro football stadium. I'm going to go in the locker rooms. I'm going to turn on the jumbotrons. I'm going to be out there. I'm going to now betting.
Yeah.
You know, I'm going to be the guy. You know,
Gotcha.
I'm the last man on Earth. I'm going to go do what I do. You know.
Yeah. What would I do? That's a good one. I don't know.
Like on the last man on Earth, he's driving an airplane around
That's true.
the city.
Yeah. Go get a nice car and just.
Oh yeah.
Drive.
That's what I would do. I'd go to like a Lambo dealership and just go on the highway. I mean, you could go 200 miles an hour.
Well, this is a great question for everybody out there. If you're the last person on Earth, what is the first thing that you would go do? That's a great question.
It would be creepy though. Think about it. You're like in downtown these big cities, and you go play in the stadium all day, and then where do you? It gets nighttime.
It'd be very creepy.
And everything's pitch black.
Yeah.
So what do you do? That would be the worst because when it's nighttime and it's pitch black and you're by yourself in the world.
But here,
what do you do? Like, where do you stay? You go in a hotel room and stay by yourself in a. I mean, it's when you think about it, it's just really, really.
Well,
creepy.
I don't know though. Too, like, I don't know the longevity of like power plants and stuff, and like how long would you have electricity? I don't know. Let's
just assume the electric grid was completely trashed.
Oh boy,
that's my point.
Yeah,
like you have nothing. The refrigerators are gone. Like there's no electric. Their grid is gone.
Well, even with vehicles, eventually, I mean, there's a
gas
lot of gas. There's a lot of
years.
gas stations out there.
But gas is only good for a couple years.
That's true.
Then you're done.
Oh boy.
So that's what I'm saying. Like the first 2 or 3 years, you might have some resources, but after that, what do you do?
Man,
You see what I'm saying?
Great question.
It's almost a pain. You almost rather just have a bunch of land and start over, primitive.
Well, you'd have to start farming for sure.
Well, that's what I would do.
Yeah.
I would go to like a place where I could farm and get primitive.
Yeah.
And really get like, but there's no animals left.
Yeah.
They found one cow on the show. So there's no animals. You can't just go farm because there's no animals anywhere.
Yeah.
Because everything's dead. Every person's dead. The electric grid is down.
That'd be crazy.
Put your head between your legs and kiss your butt goodbye.
Yeah, I mean, you could. I think someone could absolutely survive. You just have to. Yeah, you'd have to farm. I mean, you'd have to come up with some kind of water collection thing.
One of my buddies told that to his friend. They were on a plane and he was terrified. And he's like, "Hey man, if you get scared, what to do?" He's like, "What?" He's like, "You just put your head between your legs." He's like, "Yeah." He's like, "Why?" He's like, "Kiss your butt goodbye."
Hold on to your butts.
Well, hey, listen. Let us know. What would you do? You're the only person on earth. What does that look like?
I like that question.
It's a great question.
It's a great question.
Yeah. Anyway, let me pray for you. Lord, I thank you for each and every listener. I thank you for all that you're doing in their lives. I pray that they would feel at peace today. They would feel loved by you, know that you cherish them, that you're before them, and that you'll never, ever leave them or forsake them. We love you. In Jesus' name, amen. Hey, we love you guys. See you this weekend. Palms Church. We got a special guest, Bishop Courtney McBath. Cannot wait. See you guys.